Every time you have to talk, you're auditioning for leadership. James Humes.
Welcome back to the homestead, y'all. I'm standing here in our main garden. Our main garden's 100 foot by 100 foot. This part of our main garden was done about the first week of September. So I came in here, I pulled up all the landscape fabric. I took and I broadcast our winter cover crop on top of it, and then I put about a ½ inch to an inch of compost on top of the seed. And that gave it a jump start, a good boost. We got a rain the very next day. So this stuff just took off and it has been growing great. It's been growing now for about 5 weeks. It's the second week of October. So I wanted to show you what it looked like after about 5 weeks of growth. Some of the daikon radishes are already as big around as a water bottle, the bottom of a water bottle. The Sunn Hemp's doing great. You can see some blooming here, some behind me. Here's some Sunn Hemp blooming. Sunn Hemp is a great warm season legume. I normally don't plant it in our winter cover crop because it is a warm season legume, but it's a great nitrogen fixer. The roots go deep into the soil. So it was so early, it was the first week of September, I went ahead and planted some Sunn Hemp in here with it. But I'll take you around and I'll show you some of the radishes, some of the mustard, the Sunn Hemp, the clover, the mustard. You can see this yellow bloom here. This is mustard, which some of it's already went to seed. I may get lucky and get a little bit more mustard seed off of that. We generally plant each of these separately out in the field so we can gather seed. Like our daikon radish, I usually plant it early in the spring. That way it goes to seed and I can go ahead and get some seed off of it for the next year or for my fall planting. The same with our kale, our lettuce. We let it go to seed and get some seed off of it, just like any other plant. But as far as this goes, the daikon radish is one of my favorites besides clover. Of course, I have 6 different types of clover planted in here. I have over 20 species of plants planted in here together. And I'll put a list down in the description of all the different species that we put in here and let it grow all winter long. But the daikon radish is one of my favorites because it has such a deep taproot. We have about 2 feet of soil here in our garden spot where we've built it up with compost over the year until we get to solid rock. Most of our homestead, there's solid rock right on top of the soil in places. But here we've built it up. We have about 2 feet of soil. So the daikon radish goes all the way down to rock. Same with the chicory. The chicory roots will go 18 inches to 24 inches down into soil. They'll bust that soil up. And that'll give channels in the springtime. Once those plants die out, that'll give channels for the water to go, and your soil will absorb more moisture. So that way you won't have to worry about if you have a drought, if you have 2-3 weeks without rain, your garden is gonna do great because it's gonna absorb more moisture. So that's one of the reasons that we plant them. Plus we use nitrogen fixers. The daikon radish is like a battery for nitrogen. It'll absorb all the nitrogen in the soil all winter long, and it'll store it in the tuber and the main root, the tap root. It'll store that, and then as it dies and rots, all the mycorrhizal fungi, all the different fungi in the soil, all the microorganisms and the bacteria will feed on that tap root. Then once it rots, it gives another channel for moisture to go deep into your soil. Plus, it's putting organic matter 2 feet down into your soil. I can't put organic matter 2 feet down in the soil without digging it all up and replacing it with pure compost. Another thing with the daikon radish, it's storing that energy, that nitrogen. It's not washing away all winter long. As you get rains throughout the winter, your nitrogen and your other beneficial, your NPKs will wash out of your soil, and the daikon radish helps hold that nitrogen, holds it in your soil. So that way in the springtime when you plant your garden plants can feed off of that nitrogen. But I'll take you around, I'll show you some. I've got a water bottle sitting over here beside one of these radishes. And like I said, you can see how big around this radish already is in about 5 weeks growing time. But we'll talk about some of these different plants. We'll talk about the different clovers that I use. And like I said, I'll put a list in the description below so that way you can look each one of them up and see the benefits of using those species. We also plant kale in here, we plant broccoli in here, we plant turnips in here. And of course you can eat the kale, the broccoli, the turnips. You can eat the leaves off all those in a salad. We plant spinach in here also. You can eat the leaves off the spinach. And the chicory. The chicory is another one that is one of my favorites because of the deep roots, but you can also use it in teas, you can use it in your coffee. Chicory is actually an herb, and you can see some of these chicory leaves are just huge on these. I can bend down here and pick them further, but that's 5 weeks of growth on this chicory. So it's putting a lot of biomass back into the soil, a lot of organic matter, because what I'll do in the springtime when I'm ready to plant my spring garden in here, I'll come in here and I'll mow all this down. I'll take my weed eater and weed eat it right to the ground. I'll put another couple inches of compost on it, and then I'll roll my landscape fabric out, and then I'll plant my spring garden in here. And it'll be ready, the soil will be ready, all the mycorrhizal fungi, all the bacteria, all the microorganisms will be fed all winter long with the roots from these plants. And I won't have any washout. If you till your garden up, of course we do no-till and all organic, but every time you till that soil, not only are you releasing carbon into the air, which is not good for our atmosphere, but you're killing all your microorganisms. You're killing your ecosystem in your garden. So that's why we switched to no-till, and it's just been wonderful. We love it, not having to till. My tiller's been put up, and I don't use it in the garden anymore. The only thing I use in the garden now is a mower and a weed eater. But by springtime, most of this will be dyed out. What isn't dyed out, I'll open it up, let my chickens come in here, let them eat all they want to eat for a week or two, and then I'll come in and mow everything down and weed eat it down, and then plant our spring garden in here. So I'll grab the camera, I'll show you a few of these daikon radishes that are around, some of the clover, some of the chicory, and like I said, we have mustard, and there's over 20 different species in here, and hopefully come springtime, this soil's going to be in great shape and be ready for a spring garden. Okay, here's one of our daikon radishes. Of course, there's quite a few in this spot, but I've set a water bottle down here so you can see. That daikon radish is bigger around than the water bottle, and that's just 5 weeks of growth on it. Now this taproot, if I were to dig it up, right now it's probably about 1 foot to 18 inches at least down into the soil, maybe even deeper. But by the time it's done growing, the daikon radish will be about 2 feet down into the soil. Plus, the daikon radish is great if you like any kind of Japanese dishes. They use the daikon radish a lot in cooking, and it's very good for you. It's full of vitamins and minerals. So you can eat them, you can eat the leaves off of the daikon radish also. You can see how many leaves are off of just this one plant. That's over an acre. If you put just the daikon radish in an acre, you'll get somewhere around 4,000 pounds of biomass between the radish itself and the greens on the top. So it's excellent if you have a field, if you graze cattle, sheep, goats, and you want to improve your soil. The daikon radish is the thing to plant. Between it in the wintertime or even in the springtime, and the Sunn Hemp throughout the summer are 2 great plants that you can plant to improve your soil, along with your red clover and your chicory. Plus, by planting a diversity of plants like this, if you're somebody that has goats, sheep, cattle, and you want to graze them, you could plant multiple fields of this and rotate your stock throughout the wintertime and feed your cattle, your sheep, your goats pretty much all winter long in our area in Tennessee. Now maybe the middle to end of January and February, you may have to feed them some hay, but as long as you rotate them and give your crops a chance to grow back up, then you can just keep rotating fields and rotate your livestock throughout the fields. But that's the daikon radish, what they look like. Some of them look similar to this one. I'll spin the camera around and you can see how it grows up out of the soil. And then I'll show you some chicory. Okay, you can see this one, it's not quite as big around, but you can see it's about 6 inches out of the soil. And this taproot probably goes down a good 12 to 18 inches also. Now back here behind it, there's some chicory right there. I have 2 different kinds of chicory that I use. And like I said, I'll put a complete description below of all the different plants that I use in here. So here's chicory. You can see some clover in here. There's some broccoli right there. There's more clover here. So you can see the diversity of all the different plants that are in here. I'll raise the camera up here where you can see some more of them. You can see some kale in there and some regular turnips in there and plenty of clover. But if you have any questions about winter cover crops or green manures, please leave it in the comments below and I'll get to it as quick as I can. But this is just a great way to grow organic gardens. You start getting ready in the fall and it helps protect your soil all winter long because you don't want any bare soil ever. Mother Nature doesn't like bare soil. So you want to make sure that you keep something planted, some kind of roots in the ground to protect your soil. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.